folks, good to have you here on Friday Eve. It is true crime time, and let me tell you something right now. If you're a fan of the singer David, spelled D4vd, you're going to want to listen up. If you've never heard of David, spelled D4vd, you're going to want to listen up, because I think that guy is shaking in his boots right now. Here's why. A Tesla that's registered to him. Turns out there was a dead teen inside. Butchered. And it turns out there are more coincidences now tying him to that Tesla, like the raid on the home where he was living, where neighbors say that Tesla, with a very distinct look about it, was parked outside regularly, like the things that the officers took from that home. These are not good things for David, spelled D4vd. Also, some songs are starting to emerge with some themes in them that are very dark, very grisly, and yes, one song that suggests the name of the teenager found dead in the trunk of his car. Going to talk all about that in a moment. Charles from TMZ has dug up so much information on this story. He's going to join me with a very long and very specific interview about details and evidence coming up in a moment. If you were with me last night on this show, it was such an unbelievable ambush. 5 officers walked right into a hail of gunfire, trying to do what they do, protect the rest of us from bad guys. Specifically, one bad guy dressed in camo with an AR slung over his chest, looking to stalk his ex-girlfriend with binoculars through her window. Mom and girlfriend were taken to safety, thank God. The officers, who only wanted to serve a warrant, ended up in that hail of gunfire. Today, I have the moment-by-moment account, and I'm telling you, if you didn't think that police officers were badass before this, wait until you hear what they did in this 2-day investigation of this crime and what this monster did to them. That's all coming up in just a moment, plus a ride-along with the elite task force of US Marshals. Our Laura Ingram's going to take us there. Laura Ingle, I should say. Little slip. All right, and then this is crazy. An 89-year-old woman was bludgeoned to death in her bed. Vicious, grisly murder. Such an innocent and unsuspecting victim found in a pool of blood in her bed. The suspect is found hours later in the same room, literally washing blood off her hands. The murder weapon, bloodied, left right there in the room. This is an easy one, except nothing about this is easy. The NYPD corrections officers don't know what the hell to do right now with this suspect. It is the most bizarre suspect they may have ever had. And I'm going to go on record tonight. Given what I know about this crime and what you're about to learn, I don't think this suspect is going to spend more than a year, maybe 2, behind bars, if that. The victim's family's lawyer is with me tonight. Going to talk all about it in just a moment. Let me start here, though. I can tell you right now, cops do not like coincidences. And that goes double for cops who are investigating murders of runaway teenagers, especially runaway teenage girls. That fact has got to be hitting home tonight, literally, for the singer known professionally as David, spelled D4vd. I know it's strange, but it's pronounced David. His legal name is David Anthony Burke. And it is quite possible that's the name that was included in the warrant last night that was executed to search the home where he's been living. It's also the same name that's said to be on the title of the impounded Tesla, where the body of a dismembered and decomposing teenage girl was found by police in the trunk, or should I say frunk, the front trunk. That was 1 week ago Monday. If you were with us here last night, you know that that body has been identified as Celeste Rivas Hernandez, whose family reported her missing in April of last year. And get this, she may not look it in this picture, but she was just 13 when she went missing. Celeste's birthday, the 15th birthday, was the day before her body was found. But since it was the stench of rotting human remains that led the impound workers to call the LAPD, it is almost certain that Celeste did not live to see 15. For David, who's now on a world tour, none of this is good news, but it's not bad for him yet, legally speaking. That said, here are some of the bizarre coincidences that you cannot ignore in this murder case. This murdered teenager and the up-and-coming singer both have the same tattoos on their right index fingers, reading, "Shh." To be fair, it is a popular tattoo, SHHH, far from unique. But Celeste's mother says that her daughter was dating somebody named David when she went missing. And yes, David is a common name. I get it. Then there's the photo. A photo of David, the singer, in Celeste's neighborhood, not far from her house, minutes actually walking, right before she disappeared. And should I say that Celeste's house is like over an hour away from where David was living, so not likely just to be there for no reason. And now we know that in December of 2023, a song leaked out that is highly curious in retrospect. It is a demo track by David, and it's called, say it with me now, Celeste. The name of the song is Celeste, and it's all about his love for a girl who's named Celeste. Still, there was no indication that LA police were connecting the dots until last night, when homicide detectives raided a home in the Hollywood Hills. Now, it just happens to be the very same area where the Tesla had been abandoned and then towed. Yet the neighbors say that that Tesla has been parked regularly in front of the home that was raided. And in a town full of Teslas, you're going to find out why in just a moment. Why this Tesla was so memorable to the eyewitnesses who said, oh, it is that one. That's the one right there that was parked outside the home. TMZ reports that that home was most recently occupied by David, the singer, David Anthony Burke, even though it was rented by David's manager. Police reportedly seized a computer and quote-unquote other items. And I talked about all of this and more today with TMZ executive producer Charles Latibeaudiere. And before I play you our conversation, I should note TMZ's reporting was instrumental in helping the police identify that the young victim in the trunk was Celeste Rivas Hernandez. Here's my interview. Charles, this story seems to really be getting legs. What happened today with the house where David had been staying? Tell me about that.
Yeah, this house where David had been staying at least earlier this year, probably even further back. Police had a search warrant. They got a search warrant, and they finally went through the house last night. We got some information about what they were looking for there. We know that there were photos of detectives leaving the house with a computer and then several other bags of evidence bags. We don't know exactly what they pulled out of there. We know what they were looking for, and it is very clear that they are trying to connect the victim, Celeste Rivas Hernandez, to that home and obviously to David also. We should say the home is about a block and a half away from where David's Tesla was parked when it was towed to an impound yard.
Okay, that's important. The proximity between this home that was investigated and searched and where the Tesla was found. That's key. I have seen reporting that neighbors had seen a Tesla parked outside that home.
Yeah, that very Tesla. We've spoken to several neighbors who said that the Tesla with the Texas plates, which is what makes it stand out here in LA, a black Tesla with those Texas plates. You know, it was registered to David, who is from the Houston area. So we know that that Tesla is his. The thing that's still not clear is who was actually driving the Tesla when the body was placed in the car, who parked it where it was eventually found and impounded. Those are the dots that still need to be connected here. But as for this house, it's very clear that this is where David was staying. There are lots of photos that he posted from that home. He entertained people there. Benny Blanco came over and he posted some photos with him. The group Cat's Eye was there. They recorded a video with David, like a TikTok video with David in that house. So this is where he apparently was staying and clearly entertaining friends and, posting content from that home. So The one thing we have not seen is a video of Celeste or photos of Celeste in that house. Now, other photos have surfaced showing, it seems pretty clear at this point that David and Celeste had a relationship. There's a live stream that was resurfaced where they were talking to some of his fans, and also a photo of David and Celeste out at an event somewhere in LA in, it appears, October 2023, because there's a photo of David and Billie Eilish at the same event from that date.
God, in October of 2023, she'd have been just turned 14?
Yes.
No,
I
just
believe
turned 13.
13. And he would have been, so 2023, he would have been 17 or 18.
Yeah, not legal.
Yeah. That
Not
is
legal. If
that is
anything,
another part of this. If
yeah,
it was a romantic relationship, yes, certainly disturbing. And we haven't seen anything like sort of PDA or kissing or anything that would make you think that we could say for sure this was a romantic relationship. But what is clear is they spent a lot of time together. What the nature of the relationship is, we don't know for sure yet.
Okay, well, I'm going to skip ahead to something I was going to ask you in a minute, but I'm going to go there now. Maybe we don't have pictures or anything of them indicating anything romantic, but there's art, there are songs, and now everything's being looked at through a microscope. Tell me about a leaked song called Celeste.
Yeah, the lyrics to this song now, like you said, looking through today's lens, very interesting. This is a song, it was unreleased, but it did leak on SoundCloud in in December of 2023. Some of the lyrics, and again, the title was Celeste. It says, "Oh, Celeste, the girl with my name tattooed on her chest. Smell her on my clothes like cigarettes. I hear her voice each time I take a breath. I'm obsessed."
That's 2023.
December of 2023, right.
Like 4 months before she disappeared.
Right. And actually, I believe there was another time, it appears that I don't know if it was she had run away or just that she was not contacting her mother. And so there was, in January of 2024, a missing report. And then again, another one in April. So her home life is also something we're looking into because it's clear that this was not a stable situation, and that she was in and out of the house. We also know that, there was a photo, and we don't have a date for this one yet. There's a photo of David in a parking lot in Lake Elsinore, California, which for people outside of LA, that is a place that's about 70 miles east of LA. So it's not like right around the corner. And David was in a parking lot there in Lake Elsinore, which is where Celeste and her family live. They're from Lake Elsinore. So
yet another
Point,
coincidence.
yes. And by the way, that parking lot, we looked at it on we geotagged the photo and looked at it was about a 6-minute walk from Celeste's home where her mom lives anyway.
Then there's another song that I find disturbing. It's 2022. And it's called Romantic Homicide.
It is,
and
one
there's
of
some lyrics there that are disturbing.
It is actually one of his biggest hits. If you look up David's songs on a streaming platform, Romantic Homicide is usually near the top, if not the top song. And some of the lyrics from that song, he says, "In the back of my mind, I killed you, and I didn't even regret it. I can't believe I said it, but it's true. I hate you."
Important to say, no mention of the name Celeste here.
No
and
mention of Celeste in there.
Doing the math, correct me if I'm wrong, she'd be 12 in 2022.
Yeah, we don't know when they first, met, when their friendship or whatever it was began. But obviously there are a lot of images now of them together. They had some sort of relationship. And now clearly police are trying to connect those dots as well. I got to tell you about the search at the house. We know what while we don't know what they actually left with, we know from law enforcement sources what they were looking for and what they did inside the house. They were looking for blood evidence. We're told that the detectives went through the house. There was with luminol, thinking that if whatever happened to Celeste, if she met her demise in the house, they wanted to see if there was any evidence of blood anywhere in the home. So they were using luminol around the house. They were checking drains to see if there's any, blood evidence or, blood or tissue that was in the drains there. So they did a scouring of this house looking for any evidence. Again, we don't know what, if anything, they found, but our law enforcement sources say when they executed this search warrant, that was on the list, a very long list of things they were looking for in that house.
That's very painful to hear, because we know that this body was dismembered and not all parts of this body were recovered. So it would make perfect sense if they were looking to see where that dismembering happened.
Right.
And also, just remind me, this house is being rented by David's manager.
Yeah, you got to keep in mind that David is a very young, he's 20 years old. So from what we've seen as listings, this house is going, $20,000 that it can be rented for $20,000 a month. It is a large home. It's an estate, really. That's not the kind of thing even a famous 20-year-old could do on his own typically. So it is his manager, a guy who is connected to Interscope Records.
Josh Marshall is his name,
yes.
right?
Yes. So he is the person we found out who was actually on the lease, who was renting this. But again, from all the photos that David has posted, it's very clear he was staying in this home, if not all the time, frequently he was staying there. Was
the focus just on the house, or did they look elsewhere around the property?
They looked around the entire property. There's the house, there's a yard also where they could have searched for.
What about a garage?
Yes, there's a garage there. In fact, I want to say it's a 3-car garage that they went into. They searched there. But
I mean, my mind, being in true crime, goes to Dexter, and garages are often one of the places of choice, for this kind of macabre behavior. Yeah. And then do you have any information on purchasing? Like, was anybody within David's orb purchasing things like the kind of supplies you would need for this kind of an operation? Sometimes the Home Depot, sometimes Walmart. People go in with big cleaning supplies, drop sheets, even tools, that kind of thing. Bleach.
I know where your mind is going, Ashleigh, and I wish I could say we don't know at this point, but it has been very difficult, I will say, to speak to people in David's orbit, that close friends. As you would imagine, most people are pretty tight-lipped and not willing to say anything at this point because they know what's going on. They know this case has been getting a lot of attention here in LA and growing in the attention it's getting around the country. They know what police are looking for, and so they have not exactly been forthcoming with a lot of information.
Well, you know how that works, Charles. The minute arrests start happening, people start talking because nobody wants to be on the business end of a charge connected with, accessory, after or during, or conspiracy. I mean, these are the kinds of things that make the concentric circle squeeze to the player they're looking for. And I'm not saying it's David. I'm not saying it's his manager. It could be any of the above. You never know. It could be anybody. But just what about David himself? Like, what's going on with him? Is he in hiding? Is he under arrest? What are his management and endorsements? What's happening with him?
Boy, I wish I could tell you all. Here's what we know about David. The last place he was seen publicly for certain was in Seattle when he performed 2 nights ago. He had a show that was scheduled last night, but that one was canceled. And while we figured that he would be coming back to LA, we know that he has an attorney. We have not positively seen him yet. There was a sighting of someone that someone believed to be David, but we can't confirm 100% it was him. So we are on the lookout, trying to find out where he is, but we have not seen him yet. And interestingly, he had shows scheduled here in LA this weekend. He was supposed to be playing at the Greek Theater. And what's really creepy and eerie is that you could go online right now as we're speaking and buy tickets to the show in LA, and also there's a show scheduled in San Francisco Friday night that has yet to be officially canceled. So, look, that may change. This is as we're speaking right now, but I would expect it would be really bizarre to see him on stage performing as if nothing's going on when we know police have searched the home where he was living and what we know about his own car and what was found there.
My thanks to Charles Latibeaudiere and TMZ for that. We'll continue to follow it. You know that last night we brought you the devastating news of a deadly ambush in rural Pennsylvania, one that killed 3 police officers and wounded 2 others. But tonight, we know the harrowing details and the backstory, the moment-by-moment account of how those officers were drawn into that hail of bullets by a deranged stalker who was lying in wait. They are details that seem so out of place for a county more used to tractors and farmers than SWAT teams and sirens. We're going to lay it all out step by step on the other side of the break. The headline was horrible. 3 police officers killed, 2 critically wounded in York County, Pennsylvania, just a couple hours west of Philadelphia. It was heartbreaking news that led this show last night, but we have just learned about some jaw-dropping new details that led up to the murders of Detective Sergeant Cody Becker, Detective Mark Baker, and Detective Isaiah Emmenheiser, the 3 officers who lost their lives in a hail of gunfire. The gunman was 24-year-old Matthew James Ruth. Thankfully, he was shot dead before he could kill more officers. He'd already shot 5. Police say that Ruth was lying in wait when the detectives showed up at the home of his ex-girlfriend yesterday to arrest him for stalking her while dressed in camo with an AR-15 slung over his shoulder, peering into her windows with binoculars. The woman had suspected Ruth of setting fire to her truck weeks before and had set up trail cameras outside her house. Very smart move. Because on Tuesday night, her mother saw him on those cameras and called the police. The police swept the area around the ex-girlfriend's house, used a drone even, but they couldn't find him. Still, the woman and her mom cleared out, found safer shelter, thank God. But somehow that jilted boyfriend made his way into her house when they left. And then he waited and waited, and apparently decided to kill the ex-girlfriend's Labrador to keep it quiet. When the police couldn't find Ruth at his own house yesterday, they went back to the ex-girlfriend's house. That's when 4 detectives discovered that her door had been unlocked from the day before. And as they pushed through that door, the hail of gunfire began. Ruth opened fire, killing 3 of them instantly in the doorway and wounding the 4th. Not satisfied with his body count, he then went outside, shooting and wounding a 5th officer before a 6th one shot him dead. Here's the York County DA briefing reporters.
There is one motive, though, that is clear for everything, and that is the hateful scourge of domestic violence. That is what brought us here. That is what brought law enforcement here. That is what started all the activity. Detective Sergeant Cody Becker, Detective Mark Baker, and Detective Isaiah Emmenheiser were all credits to law enforcement. I personally knew them very, very well. They were wonderful. They were mission-driven, and that day they continued their mission.
That bloodshed is just the latest evidence that there's no such thing as routine police work. Serving warrants and tracking fugitives are death-defying acts on the best of days. My NewsNation colleague Laura Ingle got a front row seat this week as she rode along with US Marshals looking for people who really didn't want to be found. People don't realize it, Laura, but this is very scary work.
It really is, Ashleigh. And as we went on that ride along, you're right, serving those felony search warrants, taking part in high-profile manhunts. It is all part of the job for the U.S. Marshals. In fact, it's part of the job description. It is a dangerous job that requires the strategic maneuvers, as we found out firsthand. Take a look.
Good morning. We're going after Darren Shine this morning.
Every day before dawn,
We got warrants for domestic violence.
the Northern Ohio Violent Fugitive Task Force meets up to tackle their mission: to track down the region's most violent and elusive fugitives.
Get that window.
After weeks, sometimes months of surveillance, these task force members come armed with tactical gear and guns to go after these dangerous individuals with felony warrants.
US Marshals with a warrant! Come to the front door with your hands emptied over your head! Do it now!
On this day, the team is 20 deep, with at least half a dozen fugitives in their sights. Their charges ranging from involuntary manslaughter, sexual battery, and domestic violence. Because this is a domestic violence warrant, there are women and now children. There's a baby that they just brought out.
Stop putting me on that camera, boy!
He just spit on the camera.
Man, that nigga put me on that fucking camera, bro!
The task force, made up of US Marshals and local law enforcement, is faced with this kind of aggressive behavior on a daily basis.
People don't want to go to jail. They don't, and they make bad decisions. These are the decisions that that they're making, either to fight or flee. But we try to take all that into account and be prepared for that.
Copy, lock it down.
This highly orchestrated effort by the task force has team members surrounding the premises, weapons drawn, with a door knock and a wake-up call that no fugitive wants to hear.
Canines are a huge tool psychologically for the suspects and the guys that we're going after, and then also just as a tool for us for searching and not putting us in harm's way.
All of it designed to ensure the safety of not only the officers, but everyone within reach of the warrant being executed.
Once that door opens, we don't know who's on the other side of that door. If the door opens and that guy's got a gun in his hand, I mean, we've got to protect ourselves and protect the public.
Is that our next target?
Graduated with her?
Yeah?
So she stabbed a female a bunch of times and sicked her dog on the female. So she's had a warrant for a little while.
The second target, they were after this woman. Now we see that 2 more men have been cuffed. And
So
does he have a
tracks all the way
warrant?
down. He does.
And what does he have warrants for?
Some kind of parole violation. Tattooed guy was in the closet in that upper right bedroom.
Sometimes when the marshals go in to go get a suspect, sometimes they'll find other people who might have a warrant for their arrest. There might be drugs or there might be guns inside of the house. And now we see other people taken into custody.
Copy. So target went into apartment 87.
And what are we doing right now? Why are we lined up like this?
We're basically just getting a quick update from them, and then we'll make sure we have everybody, and then we'll roll up.
All right, here we go. It's going to be third one on our right.
Reinforcements are called in for the most dangerous offenders.
US Marshals, come to the front door! Apartment 87, it's the US Marshals with a warrant! Come to the front door, your hands emptied over your head! Do it now!
I got above you.
Open the door! Do it now! Our doors get blown in!
Accused of involuntary manslaughter for allegedly distributing drugs that led to an overdose. Inside the home, their elderly mother and their youngest child witnessed the couple being taken out of their home and away in cuffs. A heartbreaking moment for everyone involved.
So I have 5 kids myself, so usually I'll kind of take a step out as a team lead and kind of hold the kid or make sure the kids got what they need and console them and make it a good experience rather than a negative experience. Because if you have them come out and it's all negative, they just see guns yelling, and then that's all they know instead of us talking to them like a normal human being.
At the end of the day, Northern Ohio's task force is just one piece of a much larger national operation, one that brought more than 74,000 fugitives into custody last year. Each arrest makes America's streets safer. How rewarding is it when you get your target?
It's always rewarding. I mean, that's why I do what I do, and that's the purpose I have, I feel, and keeps me going every day, is to take bad people off the street.
And their efforts continue to pay off. On our ride along, they took in 5 suspects, and today the U.S. Marshals here in Northern Ohio teamed up with the ATF and they captured 35. So the efforts go on here and throughout the nation, of course. Ashleigh.
Laura Ingle, that was so fantastic. Thank you for A, doing that, and B, bringing that story to us. I just think that view is amazing to be able to do the ride along like that, especially very timely
really
given
is.
what happened in
Yeah.
Pennsylvania. Thank you. Yeah. Laura Ingle doing the work for us tonight, and just such a great job. Folks, in most circumstances, a bloody and unprovoked murder usually nets the killer a lifetime behind bars, sometimes even death in this country. But the killing of Nina Krutzhoff is anything like most circumstances. Nina was 89 years old and viciously beaten while she slept in her own bed. After the break, the bizarre reason why her killer likely will not serve more than a couple of years, if even that. I never make predictions on verdicts, no matter the crime, and I sure as hell don't predict the sentences either, but you can quote me on this one. A murder suspect newly booked and charged in New York City will likely get away with serving just a year, maybe 2, 5 tops, if she's convicted of the bloody crime. The victim's name is Nina Krutzhoff, and she was 89 years old. She was a great-grandmother who was born in Ukraine and survived the Holocaust. Last Sunday night, Nina was beaten to death in her own bed as she slept at a nursing home in Brooklyn. When the staff found her in the morning, she was covered in blood, as was the person that police arrested right there in the room. Her 95-year-old roommate, an elderly resident named Galina Smirnova. You heard me. The suspect arrested for this vicious murder is a 95-year-old woman who slept in the other bed in the room. Witnesses told police that while Nina was lying in a pool of her own blood, Galina was found in the bathroom washing blood off of her hands. Police also say the alleged murder weapon was a footrest from a wheelchair that had been detached and was lying right there with the evidence marker. You can also see that it is also covered in blood. The New York Times reports that the other footrest from the wheelchair, that was found outside the room and beneath the window. Tonight, Galina Smirnova, who I repeat is 95, is charged with second-degree murder and criminal possession of a weapon. Randy Zellin represents the family of Nina Krutzhoff, the victim, and he's a renowned criminal defense attorney, also law professor at Cornell. Randy, what the hell happened in that room? Were they arguing? Is there some explanation for this?
As far as I know, there is absolutely no explanation for this. What we have here is we have an 89-year-old mother, grandmother, great-grandmother who had been at Seagate for 5 years as a result of having suffered a stroke. There is no history of her being anything other than a booby, other than being a mom, a grandmother, and a great-grandmother. She then is bunked with the defendant in this case, a 95-year-old dementia patient. And you don't have to be a doctor. You only have to be a criminal defense attorney to know that dementia patients, regardless of their age, are prone to fits of uncontrolled rage and violence.
Is that going to be the defense here, that this is a 95-year-old woman with dementia who's not responsible for her faculties?
That certainly seems to be the path that the defense is going down. There is a mental disease or defect defense as a result of the dementia. That goes to the intent, the state of mind to commit the crime. And then there will be the question of her competency, her ability to aid in defending herself.
Yeah, so here is this picture of her in the wheelchair, presumably making a court appearance. Do you have any idea, how many times have you been to Rikers or to sort of a New York jail to visit one of your defendants who's newly landed in jail? What do they do with a suspect like this when they process them into a jail? How do they even house them?
That is a great question, which is why you look at the mental disease or defect defense. And this way, what you look to do is have the judge commit your client to the correctional area of, for example, Bellevue Hospital. So you don't end up in a classic detention center. You end up in a hospital, but there is a special part of the hospital for prisoners.
Do you know if they were new roommates? Like, did this suspect show up in this room within the last little while, and did they not get along? Like, is there a backstory at all?
The backstory, as I understand it, and it makes perfect sense. Dementia patient. She is a new patient to this facility. She had only been there for 48 hours. My understanding is that because the defendant speaks Russian and Nina spoke Russian, Seagate thought it would be a good idea for them to room together. So the defendant was put in Nina's room. And again, with a dementia patient, putting a dementia patient in unfamiliar surroundings, in making her unsettled, making her unhappy, upset, that leads to rage in a dementia patient. You can never leave a dementia patient unsupervised, unattended, particularly a brand new one when you know nothing about the woman.
Yeah.
You certainly don't leave her with an 89-year-old woman. That is a recipe for what we see here. I am on with you right now as a result of what should have been clear as day to Seagate.
Well, if she's convicted and she's sentenced, she's 95. She may not live longer than 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe years if she lives to 100 for that murder. Randy Zellin, yeah. I gotta cut it there just because I'm flat out of time and it's already 10:45. But thank you. Will you come back?
Of course.
Love having you. Randy Zellin joining us. By the way, we did reach out to the attorneys for the alleged murderer, Galina Smirnova, and they did not respond to any of our attempts to contact them, but we'll keep trying. Still ahead tonight, we hear about people being radicalized all the time, online or by their feeds. But 50 years ago today, a young heiress was arrested and charged with some of the most violent felonies on the books. Her name was Patty Hearst. And though she didn't have Twitter or Discord, Patty was led down a dark rabbit hole. After the break, our true crime rewind, how Patty Hearst ended up a violent revolutionary. You probably know the term Stockholm Syndrome, and you may know that it dates back to a bank robbery that turned into a 6-day siege in Stockholm, Sweden, back in 1973. The hostages ended up bonding with the robbers who'd taken them hostage, and then they refused to testify against them. But I'm betting that you first heard about that term in a different case, a few years later, when a legendary lawyer represented a bank robber who was caught dead to rights in California. That lawyer's name was F. Lee Bailey, yes, of O.J. fame. His client's name decades before O.J. was Patty Hearst, and I know you know Patty Hearst. Patricia, as she prefers to be called, was the granddaughter of newspaper magnate William Randolph Hearst, as close to American royalty as one could get. In 1974, she was kidnapped by the so-called Symbionese Liberation Army, and 2.5 months later, she and her captors turned up on this security camera at a San Francisco branch of the Hibernia Bank. By then, Patricia was going by the name Tanya, and bank robbing was her thing. She was a radical. 2 people were shot in the course of that robbery, and the bandits got away. But a month later, police in L.A. raided the SLA's secret headquarters, killing 6 of the 9 members who were inside, including the group's leader. But Patty/Tanya was not there. For the next 19 months, she crisscrossed the country with her kidnappers turned comrades until on September 18th, 1975, that is 50 years ago today, Patty Hearst was arrested in a San Francisco apartment. Her wealthy family quickly hired F. Lee Bailey to work his magic at Patty's trial. And the ace he had up his sleeve was Stockholm Syndrome. He told the jury that the SLA had brainwashed Patty, drugged her, confined her, and abused her both verbally and sexually until she could not think for herself. But the jury didn't buy it. It was the 70s. And Hearst was convicted and sentenced to 7 years in prison. But she only served 22 months until President Jimmy Carter commuted her sentence. And then 25 years later, on the last day of his presidency, Bill Clinton granted Patty Hearst a full pardon. In the years since, she's written a memoir, she's appeared in John Waters films, and she co-owns prize-winning French bulldogs. Coming up after the break, most people scowl in their mugshots. After all, it is the moment when they suddenly realize that the world they knew just suddenly came to an end. But every so often we come across a perp or an alleged perp who can find the joy in any situation, including a mugshot. Like this lady in Fargo, North Dakota. And like the movie, nothing about her smile, which is coming any moment. I trust, any moment we're gonna get the mugshot. Please tell me, there it is. What is she smiling about? Given the fact she's being charged for a grisly hatchet job. Full details next. I told you that a woman allegedly hit her sleeping boyfriend in the head with a hatchet and was arrested 2 days later. And then I asked you to guess the vibe that she'd given her mugshot. Would it be this? A 100-watt smile belonging to Lena D'Oliveira, 23 years old, of Fargo, North Dakota. Police say that on the night of September 5th, for reasons known only to her, the suspect picked up a hatchet in the dead of night and struck the victim's head so hard that a witness who was there said it sounded like splitting wood. She also allegedly took a whack at her boyfriend's hand, leaving several of his fingers dangling. Somehow, Jonathan Granados survived that attack. The girlfriend and the witness, who were staying at the same house, hit the road, but D'Oliveira was picked up 2 days later and charged with attempted murder and aggravated assault. Bond is set at a cool $500,000, which is honestly nothing to smile about. That's it for tonight. Cuomo's next.